Good evening. Now, since independence in 1964, Zambia's search for a durable, widely accepted constitution has remained a major national challenge, shaped by mistrust, executive influence, and repeated review processes whose recommendations have not always been upheld. Today, the issue has resurfaced with Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025, which has sparked intense debate. Supporters of the bill say it will fix inconsistency and strengthen governance ahead of the 2026 general elections, while critics of the bill warn that it may repeat past mistakes and threaten key democratic safeguards. Tonight, live from the Diamond Media studios, we bring government representative and the opposition together for a balanced and issue-focused national debate. To help citizens follow and understand the discussion with clarity, the debate will center on two major thematic areas. Number one, the process behind the Constitution Amendment Bill number 7, and secondly, the substantive content contained within the bill. This, remember, is an important moment for public dialogue and national reflection. For those watching us live, you can follow the discourse via the following platforms. We are live on Diamond TV on channel 271 on DSTV and channel 20 on GoTV. We're also live on Musanza Television on Topstar channel 93, Prime Television on DSTV channel 273, GoTV channel 21, Topstar channel 103 and Star Times channel 543. We're also live on Mafken TV on Topstar channel 171 on the Copperbelt. You're also catching this conversation live on radio platforms. One Love Radio in Lusaka on 102.3 FM, in Joma on 102.3 FM, and in Mansa on 89.1 FM, in Kasama on 94.9, in Mongo on 87.7, and in Siavonga on 91.5 FM. We're also live on Mafken Radio on the Copperbelt on 97.7 FM, Radio Mano in Kasama on 89.3 FM, Radio Delight Kwitonta in Muchinga Province, Chinsali 89.7, KFM in Mansa 95.5, Millennium Radio here in Lusaka on 90.5 FM, Power FM in Lusaka on 91.3 FM, Power FM in Kabwe on 91.3 Power FM Kabwe on 87.9, Power FM in Livingston on 102.4 FM, Yar FM in Kitwe on 89.7 FM, Breeze FM in Chipata on 89.3, also covering Chadiza, Mambwe, Lundazi and Nyimba, Petauke as well as Sinda, and finally on Kanele FM on 97.7 FM. Thank you so much to these media partners for accepting to be part of this conversation. To our live audience as well, you can also take part in this discussion via Zoom. Link available on the Diamond TV online Facebook page as well as Diamond Media Zambia. Right now, allow me to introduce our two panelists for this evening's debate. And to my right is State Counsel Sakwila Sikota. Good evening and welcome to this debate.
Good evening, Costa. Good evening, viewers. And good evening, President Hakainde at Community House. I know you are watching.
Thank you so much. Representing government is Minister of Foreign Affairs, but coming in his capacity as State Counsel, Milambo Haimbe, MP. Good evening and welcome to this debate.
Good evening, Costa. Good evening, viewers. Good evening, listeners. And of course, the nation at large. It's wonderful to be here for this important exercise.
Thank you so much. Very quickly, for the sake of the viewers and for the sake of the discussants, I'll just run and set the ground rules for this debate. Each one of you will be given 3 minutes each for your opening statements. Thereafter, you will each be accorded 2 minutes in which to respond to questions that the moderator will ask. You are free to have 1 minute of rebuttal on any issues you want to clarify if necessary. As moderator, I may allow brief follow-up for clarity when necessary. Direct exchanges. As moderator, I may initiate a head-to-head segment where the both of you may respond directly to each other. Each speaker must wait to be recognized before speaking. Cross-talking is not permitted, and the moderator may or will cut in to maintain order. Time management, as explained, we have a timer in front of you. If any participant exceeds the allotted time, the moderator will intervene and stop the speaker. As participants, you must respect time limits to ensure fairness. Obviously, we expect that your state councils, so your conduct and decorum is one, obviously, that is respectful, professional, and obviously no personal attacks, inflammatory language. Those are strictly prohibited, and as participants, you are strictly called upon to focus on issues, facts and legal arguments, not personalities. I hope those rules are clear.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. As we start this debate, allow me quickly to turn to a video, really just to set the stage on what's at stake in the Constitution debate and Bill number 7.
Let's start with the part that has captured Zambia's attention. This is not just another legal document. Bill 7 has become one of the most talked about and contested proposals of this administration because it goes to the heart of power, representation, and how Zambians choose their leaders. At its core, the Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 proposes changes to how Parliament is formed, how elections are run, and who gets represented. Supporters call it overdue reform. Critics fear rush change, and in between lies a nation asking, why now and at what cost? So how did we get here? To understand Bill 7, we need to zoom out. For over 30 years, Zambia has repeatedly tried to reform its constitution. From the Monakatwe Commission in the 1990s, the Mungombe Commission, the National Constitutional Conference, the Silungwe Technical Committee, and multiple electoral reform processes, but one theme keeps returning. Representation has not kept up with Zambia's population, geography, or democracy. Some proposals made it into law, but many also did not. The 2016 Constitution itself was a compromise passed, but leaving unresolved questions about constituency size, inclusion of women and youth, election petitions and by-elections. Bill 7 is the latest attempt to address those unfinished issues, drawing heavily from long-standing recommendations that have resurfaced across decades of reform efforts. So what exactly is Bill 7 trying to do? In simple terms, Bill 7 proposes 3 major shifts. First, delimitation. Zambia still has 156 constituencies, a number set almost a decade ago. Despite rapid population growth and vast geographical imbalances, some MPs today represent areas so large they're almost impossible to service effectively. Bill 7 proposes increasing constituency-based seats and updating boundaries using recent census data. Second, a new electoral system. The bill introduces a mixed member proportional representation system. That means Parliament would be made up of members of Parliament elected directly from constituencies, as is currently the case, and MPs allocated proportionally through party lists, specifically to increase the representation of women, youths, and persons with disabilities. This is a significant shift from Zambia's long-standing first-past-the-post system. Third, institutional cleanups. Bill 7 also touches on by-elections, nominated MPs, timelines for election petitions, definitions of youth and adulthood, tenure rules for ministers, mayors and senior legal officers, aiming to reduce ambiguity that has repeatedly ended up in court. So why is this happening now? The government argues the timing is driven by data and necessity. Zambia's population has grown sharply since the last delimitation. The Constituency Development Fund is spread thin in oversized constituencies. Women make up over half the population but hold a small fraction of parliamentary seats. Youths and persons with disabilities remain largely absent from decision-making spaces. To guide this process, a technical committee was appointed in 2020. It conducted nationwide consultations physically and virtually and received nearly 12,000 submissions from citizens, civil society, traditional leaders and political actors before producing its final report and draft bill. So let's talk about the controversy and the question marks that have risen. Despite that process, criticism has been loud. Civil society organizations, including voices within the Oasis Forum, have raised concerns about the pace of the process, whether consensus is deep enough, fears of reform too close to an election cycle, and whether Parliament, rather than the people, ends up with too much control over constitutional change. Others question the cost implications of expanding Parliament and whether proportional representation could weaken the direct link between voters and their members of Parliament. Supporters respond that none of these ideas are new, that they reflect decades of public submissions, and that delay has already come at the cost of fair representation. So why does this matter? This debate is not just about legal clauses. It is about whether Zambia's democracy reflects who we are today, not who we were 10 or 20 years ago. It is about balancing stability with inclusion, speed with consensus, and reform with trust. Bill 7 has not yet rewritten the Constitution, but it has already forced a national conversation about power, fairness, and participation. And that conversation, informed, critical, and grounded in facts, is exactly what a constitutional moment demands.
Thank you so much, Justin Mlenga, for laying context on what we're discussing tonight. Before we get into this debate, very quickly, we had a chance to speak to ordinary Zambians, and here's what they have to say.
My name is Naralimande Chipulu. I have heard of Bill 7, but I haven't gone through the details. I haven't really read it in depth.
My name is Naomi Banda. I've heard of it, but I'm not really aware of what it entails.
My name is Linda Chalo. No, I'm not quite familiar with that.
My name is Christopher Nenguke. Constitutional amendment, I think I'm aware. Nina imvelapo and ninizwa 1 or 2 3 things. Vane vikambika moja kuti vanefunga kuti vichinje.
Yeah.
My name is Trinity Mwanza. Yes, I have heard of Bill 7, but I haven't really paid attention to it.
My name is Paul Gatema. Yeah, I'm aware about Bill 7.
My name is Afano Ndlovu. I've heard about the amendment of Bill number 7.
And what my take about B7, I can say, at this moment, we as citizens, we can think it's just a political move. While it's a thing, it's something that the president wants to implement for improving the number of youths in parliament, number of women, people with disability. On my part, I can say it's good, but again, the position or the points where this Bill 7 has come in, it's not a right position. So I could say that the government should pause this Bill 7 and propose it again after the elections. Because as we can see, next year is an election year. And then people will see that, okay, it's just a political move where they want to gain numbers. Well, that's not the agenda.
From the information that I've got and the issue of, not really having by-elections when an MP dies or resigns, that one I feel it is a good one in that it will save money because we waste a lot of money on by-elections and other things.
I've heard that so many bad reviews. That's not good. They don't think they should amend anything.
As a young person, I'm in support, like me myself, my opinion, I'm in support of Bill 7 because having looked at Bill 7, there are a lot of changes that are so important. Like when you look at the world, or when you look at Zambia, each region where people live or stay, it's dynamic, it keeps on changing. So looking at one aspect in Bill 7, which is the limitation of the constituencies, that's very important. Because now, look at we youths who are enjoying the funds coming from CDF. Like me, myself, I've got relatives, like direct relatives, I've got friends who've enrolled in different courses through CDF. But look at the funds which have been allocated to these constituencies. Some constituencies have been unfortunate. Why? Because they are so large. Thereby, when funds have been allocated, it's not like there is no equality with those constituencies which are small. Look at Kanyama constituency. It's so big such that even if funds were allocated to Kanyama constituency and other constituencies, the benefit of youth, the benefits of the age, and the benefit of all the members of the constituency won't be equal.
Yeah, actually, kurifuti yama youth, because me, I'm just 34, and I'm 35 here. So my youth now was my youth at least was representation in parliament, which is good for the youth. Also, now that was mine, often participate in parliament, making parliament. I think that will be the benefit. In fact, the benefit in my constituency Juba, even the development is our neck. Because Juba can be 15, meaning they are able to construct more schools, more constituency more. Because monga 40 million next year, constituency Juba. I think it will benefit a lot of people. My grants, na jameno wakambako maloni, constituency. I think those are benefits direct here. Sure.
There will be a lot of benefits in delimitation. There will be a fair share of the cake, of the money. Let's look at Lusaka Central. We are here in Kulima Tower, you're in Lusaka Central. When you go as far as Bowling, it's still Lusaka Central. So let's assume it was cut into two. From, let's say, Long Acres up to Bowling, another constituency. From Long Acres up to here, another constituency. Meaning the privileges which are there, which were in one constituency, will be divided into two. So I think it's a good thing because even a lot of people will be employed.
Discussants, viewers and listeners, those are views that we come to the streets of for Zambians to us important national. Allow me now to get straight into the debate, and I will start with you, State Counsel Milambo Haimbe. Now, the initial attempt to amend the Constitution when the Bill number 7 was put on the floor of Parliament in March this year by Minister of Justice Princess Kasune, we were told it lacked sufficient public consultation, leading to government rather to defer the bill. Part of the question, was this an oversight on the government's part regarding the correct process for constitutional amendment? Later on, a technical committee, as we all know, was later appointed by the president and given a very short time, according to others, to collect this submission. They've gathered just under 12,000 submissions across the country. Again, does the government consider this a genuinely people-driven process given this limit? Finally, I think the bone of contention on the issue of process, the Celestine Mukandila, this is the Attorney General case, it declared the process leading to Bill 7, in other words, unconstitutional. Many lawyers say the ruling used the words, and I quote, against the spirit of the Constitution. Tell us this evening, in your first opening remarks in 3 minutes, as State Counsel, is this process with the new technical committee a validated and legal process, or is it flawed? And what does it mean when the court says against the spirit of the Constitution? State Counsel Haimbe.
Thank you very much, Costa, and let me begin by thanking State Counsel Sakwila Sikota for bringing up the challenge. Of course, it was initially to President Hakainde Hichilema. I issued a counter challenge, and State Counsel has been magnanimous enough to be here this evening. I think that's a sign of our democracy maturing step by step, day by day. So thank you very much, State Counsel. Of course, to Diamond Media for being also responding, being a good citizen by responding to this particular national event. Thank you. And for the others who are syndicated, we do not take this for granted. It's an important platform for us as Zambians. In your request for my pretty specific, I would like to instead historical context to start in my Bill 10. Pardon. We were dealing with the earlier bill some time back, and I'm sure we'll discuss it in the context of this particular bill as well. Bill 7 and constitutional reform review that is being undertaken under the New Dawn administration has got a historical context to it, and I'll be very brief about it. It's important for the people out there to understand what this context is. There is a suggestion in these conversations that we're having now that the process is rushed, that somewhat the government is now moving to make these amendments at the very last minute. To the contrary, we began this process at the time that I was actually serving as Minister of Justice, way back in 2021. The initial thought process was to have a holistic review of the Constitution, really what is referred to as constitutional reform in the strict sense of it. But as the time went along, it was quickly realized, for many reasons, amongst them the fiscal situation in the country, the fact that we had and continue to have challenges for quite a bit in terms of availability of funds to run this process. By the way, a holistic constitutional review process requires, if it is to be complete, the conduct of a referendum in relation to Part 3 of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. And so, just before I switched portfolios, we again engaged the public and made it clear that looking at the situation, looking at these parameters, our views were that, as government, as the executive, were that perhaps let us begin with the non-contentious issues. take a phased approach to the constitutional amendment and subsequently reform process. So you will note here, dear viewers and Costa, that I have mentioned two things: amendment and subsequent review process. Higher constitution. We suggested to the public that as the executive, we can see clear low-hanging fruit in the sense of non-contentious provisions, which will help us, for the lack of a better term and to use somewhat layman expressions, to clean up the Constitution. Matters which are of immediate necessity in order to see that we are able to have a more inclusive democratic process, electoral process. This is what has led to where we are. Whether or not the bill is illegal is something that we'll be discussing shortly. I can certainly say in my opening remarks that that is a complete and total misconception, a misnomer, a deliberate effort on the part of those that do not support the bill and the efforts of government to make it appear that the process is non-inclusive. And I'll be clear in my explanation. We've got all the documentation here. We'll have a wonderful night so that our people, as you could see in the video, some did not even understand what the process is. I hope that by the end of this evening, we'll have a clear picture, an honest picture of what is going on in terms of Zambia's constitutional review process currently underway. Thank you.
Thank you so much, State Counsel Haimbe. I'm sure that you've got a few seconds left, but
6 seconds. I'll cede them.
We'll allow and go straight to State Counsel Sakwila Sikota. Good evening once again, and thank you for joining us. The issue really is about the legality of this. Any response? And do you have any specific concerns with the process that government has used to pursue these amendments or reforms, as he calls them? We'd like an interpretation. The Celestine Mukandila Munia Zulu versus Attorney General case, did it consider the process of Bill 7 flawed when it said against the spirit of the Constitution? Is the technical committee and the whole process void ab initio, State Counsel?
Thank you very, very much. And I'd like to state that us as WOZA are happy that President Hakainde, that you accepted the challenge, even though you found a bit of restraint in coming yourself. You accepted the challenge and sent somebody to represent you. So I take it that what we're saying is directly to you, because that was the whole purpose of the challenge. You being the head of the nation, it's important that this matter is addressed by you. It's important that you recognize that it is a very important matter. It is part of governance. You cannot say that you've got other things to look at when the issue of the Constitution is on the table. It should be paramount by any standard. I think the Constitution, Mr. President, should be looked at as being paramount, because if you look at our country, there's three main things that you have to look at: the flag, the national anthem, and the Constitution. With all three, the people of Zambia must feel to be a part of it. Otherwise, the essence of those falls away. Everybody should feel they are part of the flag. Everybody should feel the heartbeat of the national anthem. Everybody should feel protected and that they own the Constitution. So the flag is like the face of the nation. The national anthem, like the heartbeat of the nation. The Constitution, however, is even greater than all these. The Constitution is the soul of the nation. So it is expected, Mr. President, that nobody would sell their soul. We as Zambians do not want our soul, our Constitution, to be sold. Justin Mulenga, who you played a clip of, I hope that President Hakainde actually heard him. I think that he started off by reminding President Hakainde that this is the most contested, and I'm quoting, those were his words, the most contested constitutional process that we've ever had. That says something. A majority of the people who came in to give their views, said that, in fact, they didn't know much about Bill 7. A few said they knew one or two things, but the majority actually said they didn't know. And what is instructive is that you are even talking about people in the urban areas where there's much more communication. I didn't see a single shot from a rural area. One wonders whether the rural area people were even able to have something from that. Turning to the issue of the Munia Zulu. Mr. President, if you read it, the Munia Zulu judgment says in one portion, and accordingly, we hold that the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 was not generated through a constitutionally compliant process and is therefore unconstitutional, invalid, and a nullity. That is in black and white. That is not distorting what the court said. It is quoting directly what they said.
I'll have to cut you there. Your 3 minutes is up. But stemming from there, quoting the Celestine Mukandida and Munia Zulu versus Attorney General, State Counsel Haimbe, you say you have the law that you want to quote for us. In 2 minutes, State Counsel Sikota says the Court says it's a nullity. It's unconstitutional. Where do you draw the strength that this process is legal? Your 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Costa. And again, interesting that we always have different interpretations of reality. Quite clearly, we can see that our colleagues who are not in support of this bill have got a distorted understanding of the reality. You actually played clips which predominantly were from Lusaka Central. I know for a fact, as MP for Lusaka Central, that the people of Lusaka Central that we deal with and work with every day are well aware of Bill 10. So it may be that in that clip we had a couple of people who, Bill 7, beg pardon, I keep coming back to that because we'll talk about it. But it's important because I know for a fact that we have had processes where we've talked to the people. We have sensitized them about this bill and what it means to them. So you cannot take those that were shown on the clip a representative sample. And by the way, I also want to confirm that indeed President Hag close to this process. But being the democratic president that he is, he has said, let the people discuss this matter. Let them speak to it, and it is equally important with all the other matters that they're dealing with, that we are dealing with as a government. Now, I know that State Counsel, in quoting what he says is this decision, the Celestine Mukandida case, did not specifically mention which paragraph he was quoting. But suffice to say, and again looking at the 2 minutes, the actual decision, which is at page J25, paragraph 56 of the decision, does not speak to any of the matters that State Counsel has referred to. Maybe he's talking about something that was said orbiter, but I didn't find any of that within the reading of the judgment. What does it actually say? In the relief, it talks about, and I quote, vision of the respondent to in a constitution amendment process taking wide consultations with people goes against the spirit of the Constitution. There is no mention of it being null and void. But more importantly, it states in paragraph 2 of the holding, which is what the court says you must follow. We order that the respondent complies with the spirit of the Constitution.
I'll allow you to finish. Just take note of that. I'll allow you to finish.
We order that the respondent complies with the spirit of the Constitution by ensuring a people-driven process led by an independent body of experts in conducting wide consultations with the people. The question then is, what did the court order? It said wide consultations. It didn't say stop the process of amendment. It didn't say now and void in its decision. Let us be honest with the people and speak to what is actually there.
Director, if we could also beam the judgment on the screen so that we follow. You've been quoting page
J25, paragraph 56, 1 and 2.
State Counsel Sakwila Sikota, you've been challenged that what you're quoting is not from the judgment. What is your response in terms of why you feel that this process is an illegality?
Thank you very much. It's interesting that my learned colleague states he has read the judgment, and he says that those words I've read out are not in the truth of the matter, which he knows very well, is that those words are there. He tried to have an escape clause by saying that, maybe it was Obita. That is what he says. But as to whether or not those are there, they are there. And he knows it. And that is a fact. Now, the final ruling of any judgment states that this is now what we order. But in the run-up to that final holding, they give the reasons why they are going to make that order. Now, the reason we're saying that that process has to be said afresh is because, according to the Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2020, was not generated through a constitutionally process and is therefore unconstitutional, invalid, and a nullity. When something is a nullity, it means that it does not exist. I think Lord Denning, it is in the case of McFoy versus United Africa Company Limited, said, if an act is void, then it is in law a nullity. You cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. You cannot reasonably expect to build on nothing. That it was a nullity. When arriving in that, you have to start afresh. Because it was a nullity. Right. I think that you could also that extra 35 you did with my colleague.
Finish.
This thing must be balanced. Thank you. We have to look at the whole thing holistically and confirm that the court said start afresh. Starting afresh does not mean going back to what you were doing. Starting afresh means that that is put aside and you are actually starting afresh, which they have not done.
Thank you. There still remains an unanswered question here. State Counsel Haimbe is saying the court ordered that the process be started afresh, and this is No. Correct? Well, you believe that the process, based on what the court said, is legal, and the formation of the technical committee allows for wider consultation, correct?
Yes, and if you allow me to elaborate, you said...
So what I wanted to do, yes. I'll give 3 minutes for each one of you. I won't intervene, but I'll allow for you both to exchange, because what is interesting here for me and the nation, we've got two state councils who are failing to agree on one court judgment. So then, for lay more confusing. So I would like you to enlighten us. What did the court order? You're saying it's a nullity, it should start all over fresh. What are you saying, State Counsel Haimbe?
Okay, and this is where it becomes imperative for us not to read words into a judgment. That's where we begin to have problems. When colleagues want to massage a judgment, clear words of the highest court, an apex court, that puts forward the decision that they have made. You cannot do that. You cannot put an interpretation of what you want them to have said in a judgment. Now, I'll go back, and we all know this, that the decision of the court is contained in the orders that it makes, in the reliefs that it grants. And I'll read again for the avoidance of any doubt, and I'll ask that our viewers are able to go to this judgment. It's available online. Simply look for the parties of the case engine, Celestine Mukandira versus the Attorney General, CC 009, and you'll be able to follow truth when we deal with these matters. And accordingly, we grant relief, which I read earlier. We declare that responding to initiate a process before undertaking consultation spirit. Okay, that's the first holding and finding and decision of the court. The second is we order that the respondent complies with the spirit of the court, ensuring a people-driven process led by an independent body of experts. Yes, it's there, so the people will follow it. Now, in those words, do you see anywhere that the court said start afresh? Nothing. In those words, do you see anywhere that the court said that this process was it is a nullity to that effect? Of those that have read, say 7 now and void, it doesn't, unconstitutional. Look at this from the perspective of what those applicants asked. They asked, the petitioners asked for certain reliefs, which included the following, and I quote, a declaration that the decision of the respondent to undertake constitutional amendment process without undertaking wider consultation, etc., is in breach of the Constitution and thereby unconstitutional. Number 2, an order directing the respondent to undertake wider consultation with the citizens of Zambia prior to tabling of a constitutional amendment bill, and third, that the process be halted, amongst the various reliefs that they sought. Did the court grant any of these reliefs as put forward? The answer to that question is no. The court did not say halt the process. There is nowhere in that holding that the court said that. In fact, the court said undertake a process similar to that which was undertaken when President Sata appointed a technical committee. So what I am saying is, let's not read or embellish the judgment. The judgment gives clear directive that this is what must be done. The judgment, by the way, does not go further to say that do it in this particular form. It simply says that you must follow a process of wide consultation.
So looking at the screen and the judgment, State Counsel Sakwila Sikota, again, for the sake of the public, you are both state counsels. What does it mean in 2? We order that the respondent complies with the spirit of the Constitution by ensuring a people-driven process led by an independent body. State Counsel Haimbe is saying the court never said the process should be halted.
Thank you very much. I think that the people of Zambia should realize that this is, how many pages long is this judgment?
The majority judgment is 25 pages.
25 pages. The 25 pages do not only this, which is on the screen. The 25 pages give the why they're making. They were not just sitting there, just filling up space. It has got a reason why it is that length. The 25 pages do contain this statement. Accordingly, we hold that the Constitution of Zambia, I can't quite give it to you offhand, but it's in the judgment. Accordingly, we hold that the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025 was not generated through a constitutionally compliant process and is therefore unconstitutional, invalid, and a nullity. That is in black and white in the judgment. And that is the reason they are giving as to why they are saying to the people of Zambia that the process did not meet the standard that is expected. That is in black and white. So those who wish to get round of the judgment, who say, no, don't bother about the other 24 pages. Let's just look out of 25. that you look at the law. Build up to that final declaration. The reasons are given as due. That's why, and that is what...
State Counsel, just when the judgment included, what did the court order? What did the court order the respondents to go and do?
No, what is important is what was the reason for the court action? What was the analysis of the court? And how did the court think, okay, we can have this matter resolved in this way? In the analysis, they find that it was unconstitutional, invalid, and a nullity. That is in the judgment. That is on their route to the final decision. They are taking that into consideration. So that means that that is the thoughts of the court. That is the thoughts of the court. They cannot put every single thing into the holding, but in the lead up to the holding, they'll give the reasons why they're getting there. And the reason very clearly is because it was unconstitutional, invalid, and a nullity.
Before we move to the contents of Bill 7, I really want us to, for the viewers and the listeners...
I think that you've stolen my 20 seconds.
I'm still giving you more time, but the issue there is the court made the decision. What we've seen now is the technical committee which has concluded its work and submitted a report. Do you still consider that an illegal body and an illegal process?
Well, on the issue of the technical committee, there is so much to be said and as to what is wrong. I'll give you an example. I think that they had a working space of just about slightly under a month, and the actual interaction, general population, was just slightly over a fortnight, I believe so, or thereabouts. Not even, and we're talking about the Constitution. If you look at even ordinary, just ordinary bills, the consultation that the Congress will give on ordinary bills, not constitutional bills, at least 14 days before. They'll even advertise. They've advertised for committee sittings which will be in January and so forth next year. And they're saying that make sure that you put in your submissions at least 14 days before the actual sitting. That's what they consider to be reasonable time for an ordinary bill. Keep it by mind, that is for an ordinary bill. But for a constitutional bill, because of this mad rush, this indecent haste that they have, they're even giving less than what they give for an ordinary bill. That gives you a sense of the desperation, the sense of the way that they just are not bothered about the Zambian people.
Thank you so much. Senior Counsel Haimbe, the court ruled that the respondent needs to go back and do something that is in the spirit of the Constitution, in short, wider consultations. Is the technical committee a legal body, a legal process? Was this consultative process in the spirit of the Constitution?
Indeed, it was. It was in the spirit of our democracy to start with, because we also must speak of the wider context of what has been done. We have a situation where the executive said we want to do an amendment to deal with the non-contentious issues and comes up with a position in that regard. And citizens challenge that, and they decide to go to court. And the court tells executive, you cannot do this. We say, instead, follow this process, X, Y, and Z. Let us hail the democracy that the UPND government has brought. Because the executive do in response to that, it says we understand the separation of powers, therefore we shall follow what the Constitutional Court has declared. Very, very important. We contextualize these matters. And I will not leave the issue of the alleged vision of the court to declare the process. It is actually contrary to what the court was asked to do. And yes, I said that to read into the judgment matters which are not there. But latest of this decision that the court was making, the court was specifically asked to invoke the provisions of Article 128, which confer jurisdiction on the court. And in doing so, it said that we will not confine ourselves to the provisions of the Constitution per se, which was in terms of Article 79, the process that was invoked for the amendment process. The court went back and said, let's look at the initiation of the process pursuant to our power under 128C. Therefore, the court did not look at, by the way, this action commenced prior even to Bill 7 being tabled. So to suggest that the court addressed its mind to an issue that did not exist at the time that the matter was commenced is being a little bit mischievous. Typically, the court said, we will look at the initiation process. We will look at how this whole thing was started, confine ourselves. And the decision did not speak in any way, form, or shape to the provisions of Bill 7, because it was not in the contemplation of the court. The court, in all its substantive reasoning, spoke about the initiation process. How did this whole thing start? Very, very crucial. And the court then goes and says, we would want you to follow as much as possible the process that was undertaken under the TCDZC process. That is the Technical Committee on the Drafting of the Zambian Constitution, appointed by President Michael Sata in 2011. That was done through a technical committee process where the President invoked his powers under Article 44 and 33 of the Zambian Constitution as it then read. Currently, the technical committee was appointed by President Hakainde Hichilema pursuant to his powers under Article 92 of the Constitution, and in particular, there is, I think, sub-article F, 92F, I believe. But we can go to those details. Those provisions of each other. So if there is a precedent, President Michael Sata appointed a TCDZC, that precedent declared, in fact, lawful by the Constitutional Court, and therefore the same process that was followed by President Hichilema is lawful.
In conclusion, was Article 79 of our Constitution violated in this process?
No, not in any sense. As I said earlier, the court did not even speak to the issues of Bill 7 itself. The question that was raised is, can this process be undertaken in the way that it has been commenced by government? Amongst the questions that were being asked by the executive. And the court said, we have a general power under Article 128C to inquire into the actions and decisions that are taken. So it did not even refer specifically to the provisions of Article 79 per se in determining that this matter must be concluded in this way. It looked at how the process was initiated and said the precedent we have in this country is that we have commissions, we have other modes by which these processes of consultation must be undertaken, and then said, government, you must do this in substantial conformity with what President Michael Sata did.
Yes,
very quickly, I'm giving you 30 seconds.
Certainly. You'll give me 1 minute.
I need to give as well.
But you still have to balance.
Please.
You still. I should not be the one suffering because you have to get there. It has to be balanced.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Now, what is very, very clear is that the whole Zulu matter was about, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that that is what it was about. And you cannot talk about that, oh, they were talking about how the process was initiated. What? Process of Bill 7. Nothing else. So let us stick to the truth. And I think that we must be careful. That's like Justin Mulenga was warning in the introduction that he made when he said that it should not just be about legal provisions. He said that. Again, I'm quoting what he was saying. And what we must look at is sit down and say, what was Munia Zulu and Mukandile asking? They were saying that this process, this new bill you're trying to, is wrong. Which is that bill? That is bill. That is what was being taken to the court. Never forget that. And we must not try legal language to try to confuse the ordinary person. The ordinary person has to follow what is going, being said and what is going on. That is very important in that what we must be doing, apart from making sure that we are following the legal provisions, is again, do what Justin Mulenga was saying, that every reform we do must be done with trust. You can only do that if you do not speak over the heads of people, but you actually talk to them and do engage with them. That is the only way to do it. And that is what must be done. And unfortunately, that is what this government is not doing.
I've given you enough time. I hope I'm being fair on that.
You haven't given me enough time.
Well, my director,
if you look at the timings, you'll see that you haven't. And please change that attitude that you must be balanced. The other one was 1 minute 30. With me, even with this extra talking, is 47.
Remember, I'd given 3 minutes to wind up on this for either of you, so you're free to jump into it. We are trying to be as balanced as possible. Before we move to the substantive content contained within the bill and the technical committee report, allow me just to bring via Zoom one of the petitioners in this particular case and judgment that we're discussing Celestine Mukandila. For you, you've got just a minute and a half to give your contribution, Counsel Mukandila. Very quickly, your submission in 90 seconds.
Thanks very much, and thanks very much. Family, can you hear me? Yeah. So I think it's extremely important. I think it's extremely important at this point to stress a point which is within the judgment. And at this point, I would want State Counsel Haimbe to direct his sight to page J23 of the judgment, which is very categorical. Paragraph 51 states that, in our considered view, the TCDZC process should be replicated or something of similar magnitude, pursued in initiating constitution amendments. It constitutes what we understand to be wide consultative process necessary to alter the existing content of the Constitution. State actors should be facilitators of the people-driven process led by an independent committee of experts which collects views directly from the people, and existing records. And it goes on to say, only after proposals are put to the people in a structured manner, such as through district, provincial, and national level discussions, and adoption can be put through the process in Article 79 of the Constitution. I think that the judgment is categorically clear. It requests you, State Counsel Haimbe, as the state, to ensure that you replicate the process that was undertaken by the technical committee on drafting the Zambian constitution. And that process required that one, create an independent commission appointed by or using the Inquiries Act, because that is a replication. It does not provide that you appoint a committee using Article 92 2F as was used by President Hakainde. I think let's be very honest when you're looking at the judgment. Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, but I'll still make you stay on the line for Counsel Haimbe to quickly respond, because he seems to be nodding or shaking his head.
I'm laughing actually.
So when you look at the ratio
your time is up, Counsel Mukandila. Thank you so much. You can respond, State Counsel.
I'm actually laughing, Costa, because now we are grasping at straws and telling the nation complete untruths. And by the way, Costa, I hope you'll be able to bring the respondent, who is the Attorney General, as you've done bringing the petitioner Celestine Mukandila on this program. I hope Attorney General's chambers are ready and will be brought on the show. Now, that is a complete lie, and I'm happy to use that word. I know it may sound a little bit harsh, but what the Council has just mentioned is a complete lie, suggesting that the technical committee for the drafting of the Zambian constitution, which was appointed by President Sata, was by way of a commission of inquiry. That is a complete and total misnomer. That is a lie. The commission of the technical committee on the drafting of the Zambian constitution was actually appointed pursuant to Article 33 of the 1996 constitution, as laymen call it, but it was actually an amendment, and also Article 44 of that constitution. And those provisions, and this can be checked, by the way, it's a historical fact. In the report of that commission, which was rendered in 2012, I believe, or 2013, it actually says our appointment was pursuant to this provision of the law, not the Inquiries Act. And by the way, the terms of reference are here available. We can go into them if they should so wish, of the two committees that were appointed under the two presidents. Now, let me go to the 1996 Constitution, pursuant to which the technical committee in 2011 was appointed. It provides in Article 44 the powers, the functions of the president, and it's quite long, but amongst them it goes under Article 44, sub-Article 2, without prejudice to the generality of clause
One, which is the president certain powers. There are other powers that it confers on the president, including to appoint such persons as are required by this constitution or any law to be appointed by him. In the same spirit and in the same letter of the law, in Article 92 of the 2016 Constitution, there are similar provisions which were used. And I read, and I quote in particular, it's very important that people understand this, to appoint persons as are required to perform special duties for the executive. That's Article 92, Article 2F. Now, I need to be very clear. Here, I've been quoting specific provisions that can be confirmed. Nobody else has done that. And your petitioner who you brought has not cited that part of the judgment, which it is claimed.
He was quoting paragraph 51 of page J23. You have the judgment. We'll be getting back to that. Yes. State Counsel, what is your Sakwila Sikota, what are your observations or comments on what the petition has just said, and in view of this discussion on whether that part of the judgment on page J23, paragraph 51, what was supposed to happen if we're to go back to a similar process like the Michael Sata, commission, and State Counsel Haimbe has given his thought on what should have happened.
No, thank you very much. The petitioner happens to actually even be a lawyer. He's a lawyer, actually. And he knows exactly what they had gone to court for. He was intimately involved with the case. So he is not just talking from without. He's actually talking, having been there from day one, minute one, to the last minute of the case. And he heard everything. And what is at J23, paragraph 51, is something which really is supposed to have been looked at by the people who were doing this new attempt. And it is very clear that what was needed, firstly, was an independent set of experts who would look at it, genuinely look at it, not just be there for show. Because when you look at the time that they were even given, it was for show. When you look at the fact that they were not given a free hand, but they were given a set of rules as to what they are to look at, which was which was Bill 7, shows that it was all for show. That shows the extreme bad faith with which they approached the matter. You do not go around seeking to say, how do we get past that requirement, that judgment, or let's put up a show. The Constitution should not be dealt with that way. It should be dealt with honestly and openly. This is what this government has failed to do. My colleague talked about that the earlier on had wanted to have a holistic review of the Constitution, and then they decided, oh, no, let us perhaps just look at the non-contentious issues. I think that quite clearly they were not right contentious. If it was indeed non-contentious, we would not have a situation where even Lenga has declared that, and he's an independent person. I believe that Diamond TV is independent. I believe so. An independent person has said that this is the most contested. You cannot say that then it is non-contentious issues. And who is it who decided that these are the non-contentious issues? This was fixed from day one, and the Zambian people do not want to be part of a rigged system.
So we'll be getting now into the contents, but I just want to clear one thing with you, State Counsel Sakwila Sikota. Is the appointment of the technical committee that just submitted a report, is it illegal, or is it not in the spirit of what the court ordered to say they need to go back, according to page J23, paragraph 51, and select an independent? Are they not independent? Under 12,000 submissions, isn't that wide consultation enough? When you say they are being rushed, does the Constitution give a specific time frame in which a technical committee is supposed to work?
Let me start with the last bit about being rushed. The whole point of having consultation is to give people enough time to be able to consider what you are asking them about, and for them to then give you a feedback. That clip you had of people off the streets clearly shows that the majority of them don't even know what is being talked about. That means that you have not given sufficient time. And you're talking about people in a very urbanized situation. My colleague said that, in fact, most of them are from Lusaka Central. Those are people, generally, when you look at the population there, have got good communication and everything. You're not talking of my great uncle in Kalabo, or somebody in Kaputa or Shangombo, who most probably has never even heard that there's Bill 7 going on. So you have not gone in the spirit of it. The spirit of it is to gather a true reflection of what the people say. The spirit of it is not to drive people in a certain direction. It's to give them sufficient time. This is,
for the sake of time, is the technical committee an illegality?
It is an illegality because it is not independent and doing it in the spirit of what the court said it should do. It would only be illegal if it was independent and doing it in the spirit that the court said it should do. By not being in the spirit, that makes it illegal.
Unfortunately, we need to move because there's so much ground to cover and time is not with us.
Yes, but you did give State Counsel quite a bit of time to speak to this issue.
I know you.
I think
I gave you enough time to respond to Celestine Mukandila.
Yeah, but I'm now responding to State Counsel. It brought different dimensions that I must speak to.
Unfortunately, we need to move to the contents of the bill, if you allow me, State Counsel. And in your time, you can find probably some space to respond. Let's get into the substantive content contained within the bill and the technical committee report. And I want to start with an issue, whether it's contentious or non-contentious. State Counsel Haimbe, critics argue that introducing a mixed member proportional representation system is a step backwards because legislators should be elected directly by citizens, not appointed through party lists. What is the justification for introducing this model?
Thank you very much.
So I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yes, I'll speak to that. Let's go by this one super citizen, Justin Mulenga, who appeared in your video, who suddenly has become the be-all and see-all of Zambians' opinion on what is contained in Bill 7 and our constitutional making process. We completely forget here that the trade union has spoken in favor of Bill 7 and on behalf of thousands, perhaps millions of Zambians. The students have spoken in favor of Bill 7. This is on record. I don't know how come Justin becomes the one that is the epitome of our conversation regarding Bill 7. It's not a realistic position to take. Justin is but one person in a video that was taken. We don't even know the process that was undertaken. I'm not saying anything about Diamond TV, but that is my view. I wanted to put that across because it seems that Justin has been put in all this and has become what is the essence of Bill 7. People have spoken. The chiefs have spoken who represent the people. And by the way, even when we talk about going to Shangombo and so on and so forth, in actual fact, the technical committee went to all the provinces of this republic. How much more inclusive of a process do you want to be undertaken? The question you've asked repeatedly as to whether or not it was illegal, the technical committee, has been answered very vaguely. I have cited specific provisions of the Constitution and the previous Constitution which were used to appoint these technical committees and it is sound in law. You cannot simply say that it's illegal because it's not following the spirit. That is not precise. Being said, to answer your question on going backward, I shudder to wonder how introducing provisions that allow for these vulnerable, ostracized people in our communities to have a voice means going backwards. It's unfathomable completely. All this time, civil society, the opposition, were talking about the fact that this UPND cabinet has got only 3 women, 4 women, or whatever it is. It's not representative. All this time, we have spoken as politicians that it's difficult for women to use the ordinary path of direct election. I'm using women as an example of direct election because of the abusive nature of our political system. And we come up with an idea that would give these marginalized groups an opportunity to participate effectively. And someone says it's going backward. How? In what sense? It's not possible. In fact, it is a progressive provision that says, let us embrace the youth, because those were also said not to be given enough opportunity to participate in governance. This mixed member proportional representation system that we are proposing in the proposed amendment clearly incorporates these groups. It brings them together, gives them an opportunity that they would not otherwise have when you use the ordinary direct method of election. And that, by the way, is not to say that they will not participate in the other process as well. So they have, we know that we've got a diverse crowd, therefore, to use that expression, the ability to be brought into parliament via the list system using the mixed member proportional representation, but also directly they can compete and participate. Where are we going backwards in that regard? There is no way.
Thank you. Sakwila Sikota, your take on mixed member representation. Do you support the issue of a small parliament as proposed under Bill 7, a smaller parliament?
Thank you very, very much. I would like to start off by saying that there is an Official Oaths Act, which is Cap 5 of the laws of Zambia, which sets out the oaths that people take. The Official Oaths Act for oath of office says, I will well and truly serve the Republic and the President of Zambia, that I will be and bear true allegiance to the President and the Republic of Zambia, that, and this is the most important part, I will preserve, protect, and the Constitution of Zambia as by law established. That oath is not only there for that, even for the judicial officers, it has similar wording. It says, I will do justice in accordance with the Constitution of Zambia as by law established, and in accordance with the laws of Zambia without fear or ill will. As a lawyer, all lawyers, when being called to the bar, also take an oath to defend and protect the Constitution. And it is not only, Mr. President, let me remind you of the oath that you took. President Hakainde, you took this oath. I, Hakainde Hichilema, having been constitutionally elected to the office of President of the Republic, do swear that I will faithfully and diligently discharge and perform my functions in this high office, that I will uphold and maintain the Constitution and laws of Zambia, and that I will dedicate my abilities to the service and welfare of the people of Zambia without fear, favor, or ill will. Having taken that oath, Mr. President, you need to ensure that the Munir Zulu judgment and what was in it is followed by yourself. I, as a lawyer, having also taken that oath, have to ensure that I protect the Constitution by abiding by what the Constitutional Court said, namely that this Bill 7 is a nullity and illegal.
You answer the question of mixed member proportional representation in your 2 minutes. I believe you have nothing to say about it.
No, I have lots to say. If you allow me,
You say I'm unfair, but I gave you the 2 minutes.
No, but the assumption is what I am saying is not correct. When you say that, you assume I have nothing to say. I said, no, I've got a lot to say.
Great.
That is not a fair assumption to make.
No, I stand corrected. Let's continue, because now we've gone into the content of this bill. State Counsel Haimbe, Article 58(4) of our Constitution states that the Electoral Commission shall determine the names and boundaries of constituencies and wards, and Section 5 of Article 59 states that the Electoral Commission shall, at intervals of not more than 10 years, review the names and boundaries of constituencies and wards. The issue of delimitation, again, is coming up, and we saw the Electoral Commission of Zambia appear before the Select Committee at Parliament, using the 2019 report as a basis and saying this report has now been revised in 2025. The question is, again, the transparency and openness of this delimitation. Where is the revised report of 2025, and where are we drawing the mandate to propose delimitation in Bill 7 of 2025?
Yes, thank you, Costa. Delimitation is one of those issues which our people have repeatedly spoken to, and it is something that certainly they want. And I'll go into the meat of why the substance of that particular provision. Let me say, make an overarching comment regarding the content of Bill 7. These are 13 articles that proposed amendments to the Constitution, not a reworking of the Constitution as a whole, but specific proposed articles 13 as contained in that Bill 7. And each of them speak to an important facet of our governance, including what you've spoken about, delimitation, including the removal of the provisions in Article 52, which were somewhat ludicrous, including speaking specifically to the question of how do we hear and determine an presidential electoral petition. Those are all matters we have spoken about as Zambians without question and without doubt, including as long ago as the earlier Constitutional Review Commission. So we cannot come today and suggest that these matters have been plucked out of the sky. That is, again, not being in touch with the reality that we are facing as of now. Let's talk about, you've asked about request drive for us come from when we speak about the need for delimitation, and you've quoted the appropriate articles, and I'll go to the Constitution. I've got all three of them here, or is it four, as the case may be, I don't know at this point, where in Article 58 delimitation is spoken about, and you quoted some of the words. The important thing to note there is that a time limit is given as to when delimitation must occur. It is clearly stated in Article 58 that the Electoral Commission shall undertake this process at least every 10 years, in a cycle of 10 years. So where we are now, it's a necessity. Otherwise, you are saying that you want us to commit a constitutional breach by not having that delimitation, because the last one, of course, only took place more than 10 years or plus or so ago. So it is a requirement. Now, you have asked a question about how this delimitation is undertaken. And I would like to draw the attention of the public, because it's been suggested that it's an arbitrary process. You've actually suggested that yourself. Article 59 provides safeguards in the Constitution itself of how this delimitation must be undertaken, and it gives criteria which must be taken into consideration to take into the account the history, diversity and cohesiveness of a constituency, to have regard to the population density trends and projections, to ensure that the number of inhabitants is reasonable in terms of the geographic features. I'm rushing through because of time. Ensure that constituencies' wards are wholly within districts, to achieve believe, very importantly, an approximate equality of constituencies and ward populations subject to the need to ensure adequate representation for urban and sparsely populated areas. This is the criteria that the ECZ uses in order to determine how delimitation will be undertaken. And a failure to comply with this is a constitutional breach which is actionable by anybody who is not happy with how the ECZ has undertaken its exercise. It is there in the Constitution. Nobody would dream up constituencies and say that it is because of some other consideration outside of the Constitution. We look at population, we look at the size in terms of geographic significance of a particular constituency and determine. When I say we, I'm talking about the law. That is how ECZ decides the issue.
Thank you so much. State Counsel Sakwila Sikota, Article 58(7) of our Constitution provides that even a report such as the one for delimitation by the ECZ can be challenged before, the courts of law. I want your take on this issue of delimitation and its proposition. Why is there all this skepticism that when State Counsel Haimbe says it is law, it is constitutional, every 10 years we must delimitate, and the time is now? Why then are we thinking that this is a political gimmick by the party in power, that delimitation advantages them? Isn't it a constitutional requirement? Your 2 minutes.
The simple answer, it is a gimmick. It's not that we are thinking, it is a gimmick. The law with regards to delimitation, yes, says that every 10 years there must be a delimitation exercise undertaken. Now, delimitation, what is it? Delimitation is what my colleague referred to, making sure that you look at how